Hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. Obviously, we're not in the best of moods. Not the result that we were looking for. Got Maurice joining us on Zoom down in Panama City Beach. Hello, Maurice.
What's up, Maurice?
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
I
I'm Jimmy, by the way.
well, everybody knows Jimmy. There you go. Good job, Maurice.
I'm fine. I'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, look, I'm gonna start. Certainly not the result that we expected, that we wanted, that we thought was going to happen. I think I told Jimmy, maybe we were all in text. I firmly believe that Michigan's defense was better than I expected. I will say that. So shout out to them. They were better than what I expected. The problem that I have with that is I believe they were better prepared than we were. Michigan was prepared for Jalen Milroe. They were prepared for any deep threat that we, presented or have presented in the previous games. They were prepared for our physicality. They appear to be more prepared than we were prepared for them. And that was very evident in the first half of the game. We're all kind of in shock. I believe at one point, the yardage statistics in the first half was 199 to 39. And again, I kept saying, I just believe we're more talented. I believe we're more talented. And I still believe to this day that we were more talented. But I will continue to say, I will take, and I said this when I coached, I will take heart over talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I'm not suggesting that our players didn't work hard. I just don't believe that we were as prepared as we could have been for this Michigan team. Jimmy, I'll start with you and kind of get your 2 cents.
I wonder, because, they hear the chatter. Michigan players heard about how talented this team is and all the things you just mentioned. And Alabama heard about how much talent we had. And these games, traditionally, the SEC's always dominated. Alabama's always dominated. So I just wonder if that has a little bit of factor. Maybe Michigan came in a little more motivated. Maybe we thought, not to think we could just go in there and show up and win. But like I said, maybe there was a little bit, or it was obvious that there was a little bit different attitude on their side of the field than it was on our side of the field. Again, whether it's just, trying to get 18, 19, 20-year-olds to get up for this kind of game when they hear all this chatter, I definitely believe a lot of it is the coaching. But, man, we have been on a roller coaster ride this year like none before that I can remember. We've had ups, downs, we've had good, we've had bad. A lot more bad, it seemed like, than we've had in years past, but we've also been able to overcome that with the good and win games where we didn't play our best. And again, we saw that again Saturday.
Absolutely.
I mean, we saw some good. I mean, we dominated for 15 minutes of the second half, 16 minutes really of the second half. We dominated like we were the better football team for that 16 minutes. But then you also saw the bad in the first half and in the last 4 and in the overtime about how, again, just, I don't want to say it was discipline, but just, again, how we just didn't know how to finish the game. The bad side of what we've seen this year from the quarterback, from the play calling to the whatever you name it. So, again, what we saw yesterday was a lot of what we saw throughout the entire year. And it's very disappointing because, again, we are the more talented team, but again, I don't always win you games, obviously.
Absolutely. Maurice?
My initial thought is take every scholarship back and fire everybody. But that's not realistic. I thought our offensive line got whipped, which surprised me. I thought that they were, as Saban had said, it was the most improved aspect of the team. And they were getting, it wasn't anything. I mean, everybody runs stunts. I mean, geez, but they were physically pushing us backwards. for the first, second, and fourth quarter, to Jimmy's point. In the third quarter, it was a good quarter. And I really thought that we were going to come on. I thought our play calling was questionable. I thought we should have ran the ball more, and I thought some more RPOs. The pocket passing, as I was texting y'all yesterday, you need to just go ahead and stop. The pocket is not there. It's not there consistently. And I really think that the best running backs were Haynes and Miller. I thought that they should have played more. Nothing against McClellan, and I didn't see Roydell Williams. Did I miss that?
He didn't get a carry.
So
He was in the game, but he didn't get a carry.
So yeah, I just thought it was a game that seemed to be that we were out of sync the whole time. And to your point, Sean, credit to Michigan. They're the ones that put us out of sync. So I think that we could have, but it almost felt like we were flat. I know in the first half, third quarter, they showed some emotion. I don't know what happened. I haven't gone back and watched it yet. The fourth quarter, as far as those last two drives that they had, especially the last one. I was like, where did we go wrong? What did we,
Well, I go back to Maurice. Listen, I'm going to go back to, we got out coached. I mean, I thought our defense played their butts off, considering that our coaches were not putting us in the best positions to be successful. We hear that all the time. I thought our defense played their butts off and had a chance to finish the game. But listen, look at Michigan's 4th and 2 play in their own territory with 2+ minutes to go versus our 4th and 3 from the 3-yard line, 4th and goal from the 3-yard line. Look at those two play differences, the schematic of that. I mean, theirs went for 38 yards and ours didn't gain a yard. And so it's just, and man, I'm not just the guy that's sitting the armchair quarterback. I mean, I'm not saying I've been in a Rose Bowl situation before, but I've been on the sideline and I've had to make calls and that sort of thing. So I get it. Nor am I saying that I'm a Tommy Rees. I'm not saying that. I just feel like for almost a month, we needed to be better from a scheme perspective in several scenarios. And one of them was their 4th and 2 from in their own territory. And not now that I saw what happened, but I'm just telling you, the first touchdown to Blake Corum, the pass where no one was in 15 yards of him, I can tell you this, on 4th and 2, somebody on my defense was going to be eyeballing him wherever he went.
Yeah.
No, I believe we would have handled, if they would have handed it off up the middle. But if he went anywhere else, I was going to have someone on him. And that joker, again, was wide open with nobody around him, and it went for 38 yards. That is not players.
That's schematic.
That is scheme.
Yes.
And so, I say and I'm glad Nick Saban admitted it. Said that was on him and the coaches, and I do have to agree with that. Hang on. We're out of time for the first segment. We'll come right back and we'll talk about that some more, because we could probably do 5 shows.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's take a quick break. Tide fans, not that you need to hold your seats anymore after today, but hold your seats. We'll be right back to Tide Talk.
Gig speed from Beam, made for football, available everywhere.
All right. So, welcome back, Tide fans. We were talking right there at the end. I think you had a point. I think Maurice had one. I'll go with you first, how we
So-
kind of,
You know, on the whole schematic thing, which you talked about, you know, how many times, all of their touchdowns were breakdown. I mean, how many times in our secondary were guys, they had guys running wide open and our guys were looking at each other like, man, what do you know, what, we haven't seen that in quite a while. So
Right.
obviously they did some things
they did a very good job of it.
that again, we were not ready for. So my question to you is this. How many times have we shown up, whether it be with a week's worth of preparation or a month's worth of preparation? How many times have we showed up and maybe looked a little bit different? How many times has the opposing team or opposing fans or a show like this going, man, Alabama came out that first half, we ain't never seen none of that
Never.
stuff. Has that ever happened? I mean, do
Never.
we ever do anything? Are we just that, I guess,
Confident.
cocky or confident that we can just show up, run the same little RPO, same little this, get in the same formations, run the same routes, and we're just gonna make it happen because we're just better than y'all? That's what I'm thinking, man. That's what happened because these teams, and again, I get it, we're always more talented. So these teams do have to come up with a few wrinkles, but why don't we ever do that? Or have we ever done that? I just don't look at it. But that's my
Very
question.
good point.
I mean, that's my question.
Very good.
We saw stuff, and again, that hadn't happened really. I mean, much lately it hadn't happened. We've been in position, making plays, but again, it's been a month. They obviously found some things. We didn't, obviously, we obviously didn't find nothing, or we just thought what we could do, what we had been doing would work.
Mo, and I got a comment to that with respect to their touchdowns and where they came from, but Mo, go ahead.
They're shifting for whatever. I think every time that they had success, somebody was shifting. And to Jimmy's point, this was the first time in a long time that I saw a lot of this, and is from DBs, and hadn't really seen that this year. I don't know what they were doing that was confusing to them.
But Mo, let me touch on that real quick, and I'll get back to you. There was a comment by one of our players, and I want to say maybe that was Malachi Moore. Malachi Moore said they did a lot of things that we had not seen before. And to your point, where was that from us?
Yeah.
You know, and so Mo, go ahead. I just had to throw that out there because that's exactly right.
And I think Saban touched on it going into the half about doing that. They were doing things that we should have adjusted to, but didn't. And usually we have a good job at halftime of making those adjustments that we have this year. Did not see that. For the life of me, I don't understand, to like you were saying, how anybody can be that wide open several times. And like Saban said a couple of years ago, we don't have a defense that allows a player
Somebody
to
to
run
be
it.
wild.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Obviously, we did twice yesterday. So I don't know what Harbaugh and his staff did as far as what they saw, where they saw gaps, but they did, and credit to them for their job. Games like this, you have to go back and reevaluate. It was not players, like you said, Sean. It was scheme. And, you can't win a national championship doing that. So something has to be changed or tweaked or something if we expect to be back.
I sent you that screenshot of the last 3 recruiting classes. Again, depending on what publication or what site you're going to. Alabama's had the number 1 recruiting class in one way or the other last 3 years running.
21, 22, 23.
So we technically are the most talented team in the country when it comes to those.
According to those stars,
According to those
ratings,
stars, those
yeah.
ratings, we are the most talented. And this 3 years in a row that we hadn't won a national championship. Again, it's obviously it does go back to the coaching. I mean, you think for a second that a Lane Kiffin or even a Sarkisian would have not won a national championship when a Bryce Young was a quarterback and all those other guys we had in that backfield. Same thing on the defensive side. I mean, we we recruit at a high level on the defensive side. Are we missing on all that? Are we not developing? Are we not scheming right? Don't tell me that we wouldn't have won a national championship if Kirby Smart was still our defensive coordinator.
Didn't I say that
So
just
we had-
earlier?
I mean, we've absolutely missed on those coordinators this year.
Did I not say this earlier in the year on our show? One of two things. The system's off, the star and the ranking system's off, or we are not doing a very good job once they touch our campus at making kids better. One of those two things.
Or putting them in position to be better.
Well,
make plays.
right.
I mean,
I don't know. And listen, hey man, 12-2, made it to the playoffs. Most teams, and they mentioned it earlier in the day, most teams are happy about that. Not at Alabama. You know, you go to Alabama to play for a national championship. But at some point in time, the rubber's got to start meeting the road from a coaching perspective as well as the players. So I was going to go back. The touchdowns that they had out of the backfield, motion guys. I mean, it wasn't like they lined up and threw the ball deep or ran a post route, and beat us. It was Corum out of the backfield, Corum in motion, the Wilson kid in motion, and we were nowhere around them. We weren't even.
The first touchdown, he could have threw it to two different guys.
Yeah.
He could have threw it to the tight end or the running back.
Yeah.
Now, again, they created a lot of chaos in the middle. If you look, I don't say it was a big play, but they had a guy coming this way. We all did. It was just boom, and all of a sudden, two guys were wide open. But again, that was a great play.
I go back.
How come we didn't have that?
I go back to what I'm just telling you, man. We're up 7. It's 4th and 2. They're in their territory. Man, I'm calling a timeout, and I'm saying there's 2 guys that I'm going to have someone on, and one of them is JJ McCarthy. One of them's Blake Corum. Now we played man coverage all night, pretty much. So that's going to take place anyway. But I'm going to walk somebody down the box, and wherever Corum goes, I'm sending somebody with him. And somebody else is going to beat me and not him. Well, that's what they did against us. They knew Jalen Milroe was going to get the football, not just on the last play of the game, but a lot of times during the night. Man, we kept yelling for the jet sweep. And there was one time they showed what happened, and the jet sweep was wide open.
For a touchdown.
And we don't give it. We keep running the quarterback for no gain or 1 yard because they knew we were going to go to our guys. Why didn't we know that?
Even Lane Kiffin tweeted, I think during the game, off tackle, outside, off tackle. Yet we didn't run it. We kind of gave it up there in the third quarter. And I thought this, Tommy Rees called a very poor game. And, I know Milroe played his heart out, tried as best he could. He's still showing a lot of signs of indecisiveness in the pocket. There were a couple times, as always, receiver's open, just let it go.
Right.
And he pulls it. So he has a lot to work on this spring. If he's sitting there preparing for his Heisman campaign, he needs to take a step back and watch his film of this game and a few others where he holds the ball way too long.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's pause right there, take another break. We'll come back and finish the last show for this football season, first show of 2024. So hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Gig Speed from Beam, made for football, available everywhere.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. As I mentioned, last show for this football season. Certainly the mood is not what we anticipated. I have to say it. I thought we'd beat them by 2 or more touchdowns. I mean, and I truly felt that way. Even watching everything that we watched, all of the shows and all of the conversations, I just, gosh, I looked at their schedule and thought, holy cow, Rutgers and
Well, not-
Bowling Green and I compared JJ McCarthy and I thought, well, we played Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner. We played, Jack, the dark kid from Ole Miss, and we played Beck from Georgia,
Milton.
and
It was from Texas.
Milton from, now I'm thinking this JJ McCarthy kid's pretty good. 25-1 as a starter. Obviously, he's a pretty good player without a doubt, but he's not a Jaden Daniels and he's not a, Carson Beck. And so, man, but
Well, I also went back, I was watching the bowl games. Ohio State laid an egg, Penn State laid an egg, and those were the two best teams. So then my confidence grew. I was like, Big Ten conference just is not it compared to the SEC. However, they showed otherwise. But what really, other thing that bothered me is they were talking about how big our offensive line is. Yet Michigan was getting push up front. How? How do you weigh 350 and somebody is able to get by you or push you back a step? I don't get that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
let me say this real quick, and you can.
Yeah.
The last play of the game for us in overtime. We hadn't even addressed the whole snap issues. But if you guys watched the replay multiple times and they showed a view from kind of up top going into the end zone, the design was not bad. We pulled Foster, the right guard, and he hooked around Roberts. I'm sorry. We pulled Roberts. And listen, man, if there's a clean snap that doesn't put Milroe in panic mode, off tackle to the left
It's probably a touchdown.
was parting the Red Sea.
So was the RPO, the bubble screen, which is why we went motion.
Yeah.
It was open. He had two blockers and he could have probably gotten it. But yeah, to your point, make that block.
Yeah, I was as critical as anybody when I initially saw that last play. I'm like, are you kidding me? The worst call in the history of calls in that moment. And then I've seen the replay a half a dozen times or more, and I've seen people's take on it. And you're right. Roberts, we had that whole line sealed off. Now, granted, Michigan.
They blew up the right side of our line because Latham was in the backfield.
Michigan did have a guy there that could have crashed in and maybe made a tackle on Milroe, but it was there. But you're right, that snap threw off everything. And speaking of that, we've been talking about Reese and terrible game call, and defense was out of position, and this and that. Milroe didn't have a great game, but at the end of the day, we had a touchdown lead with 4 minutes to go in that game and didn't find a way to win it, and they did. But part of that was we wasn't able to finish or execute certain plays because of the stinking center.
Yeah.
Man, how bad has he been all year? I mean, every single game he has had bad snap after bad snap. How many false starts has he had snapping the ball? I mean, dude, and again, man, he did a great job last year. I remember we wanted him centering last year, if y'all remember.
I don't know what happened.
Dude, he's this year alone he's got to be the worst center Saban has had.
Yeah.
From an execution standpoint, because he was awful. And you tell me we don't have another guy.
And here's my question. Thank you. That's the lead in. So we saw Justice Haynes play and get some actual carries in a semifinal game, who hadn't really played all year. We saw Jam Miller get some carries, and as you alluded to, Maurice, both of those guys probably look better than McClellan and Williams. So you're telling me at the University of Alabama that we do not have another guy to play center? At the University of Alabama, there's not another guy. So we got a Justice Haynes and we got a Jam Miller and but we never one time replaced McLaughlin at center.
Yeah.
All year.
Can't answer that, can we?
Did we sign one this year?
I don't know if we've got a center, but I mean, we've got linemen out the yin yang that were 4 and 5 stars. I mean, surely to goodness, we've got one.
Well,
that
if
we can
I'm
at
a
least try-
center of any kind of relevance, I'm going to Nick Saban saying, hey, man, I can do what that guy did, and I'm just a freshman.
You know what's scary? Is he could technically come back for for another year if he wanted to. I hope like heck we see his name in the transfer report.
Well, the only factor with respect to that is you know that this affected him so bad if you read all the articles about how bad that you would think that he would go to work on that all off season if he were to come back. Now listen, at the end of the day, we were 12-2 and playing in a playoff game with him at center. Now he did have some very critical mishaps, but he was the center the whole year. So you would think that he would go and work on that, but it just, again, man, and we're picking things apart because we're Alabama fans, and we've seen us for years and years and years and years, and we have an expectation.
Expect better than what we saw.
Why did we have an illegal substitution
Now,
after
you
a first?
asked the question, and I don't know.
That's another momentum killer.
Yeah, how is that?
You got momentum, and then somebody calls a formation, and then we have 12 out there. Poor communication somewhere. Ridiculous.
And was it
that's-
you, Maurice, or I don't know if it was you or one of the commentators. Oh, it was one of the commentators. We're 13 games in, playing the 14th game. How are those things still happening? How are the bad snaps like that now? And listen, not just one. Milroe had to squat down to his ankles all night long.
Half the time he was having to squat.
I don't know if you know, in the fourth quarter, he started taking the snap with bent knee, just so he would be prepared. So you just took center. You have changed his comfort level.
His
back
approach.
there.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, when he's back there, I'm sorry, but Milroe is having to look at the defense in different things. He can't always be staring.
It does make it more difficult for Jalen.
Oh, of course.
Well, look, man, I know we're coming up on the end of the show, and there's just a couple of things I want to say before we got through the end. One, like you said, 12-2. We had our chances. As bad as it looked, we still were right there at the end. Man, we're freaking loaded. Again, I am going to be interested to see in the portal. I mean, we're going to lose a dozen probably or more. It's going to be interesting to see if those guys are going to be just some guys we don't even know who they are kind of thing, or it's going to be some guys we're like, oh, wow, why did he leave?
Players.
Impact guys. So I'm going to be interested in seeing how that unfolds over the next few days. But man, we got to give a shout out to my man, All-American kicker, Will Reichard, for setting the all-time record. Man was money yesterday, kicked a 52-yarder. That was, I mean, he's been that
huge
guy. Our punter, Burner, I think he's got another year. Man, how outstanding have those two guys been this year? But man, just a shout out to Will Reichard for what he's done and what he's meant in the university. And I just hope like heck we got somebody half as good as him.
Well, I tell you what, they were talking about Burnett was our MVP. If we were to won, he was the MVP, and I don't know that I can disagree with that.
Right,
But,
right.
Hey, listen, another fun year. I mean, it's great doing the show with you guys. We are here again, kind of not where we wanted to be, not where we thought we should be. You mentioned next year we're loaded with talent. Gosh, we've been loaded with talent for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, I do look forward to seeing kind of the things that happen over the course of the next few months. I know some guys will leave, but expansion of the playoffs next year with 12 teams.
Bringing in Texas and Oklahoma.
The third game of the year, I think, for us is Georgia, or third or fourth game of the year for us is Georgia.
Into September.
And then we go on the road to Oklahoma. So should be a fun year. It's going to be an exciting year. Yes, Mo, to your point, Milroe needs to watch some film. If he anticipates being a Heisman front runner, he's got some things he needs to. Certainly has the capability. No doubt has the capability. But hopefully we do some work over the summer and we get better. Maybe our coaches do some looking in the mirror and we get better there as well. So, Mo, thank you for joining us again. Great year. Jimmy,
Appreciate you, Mo.
appreciate you being on the show. Tide fans, thank you for joining us each week right here on Channel 207. We will be doing this again next year, hopefully, if Beam decides to have us back. Thanks for a great 23 season, and we look forward to seeing you guys next year. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.